There is a millennial individual standing in their bathroom at 11:30 p.m.
and they are finally brushing their teeth, not because they decided to go to bed.
because every other thing that needed doing has been done and this is what is left. The child's homework was reviewed and the child was read to and the child was settled. And the child's lunch is prepared for tomorrow. The partner's difficult day was listened to and the partner's question was answered and the partner's reminder was added to the shared calendar. The work email that arrived at 9 p.m. was answered, briefly but answered. The dishes are done. The permission slip is signed. The dentist appointment that is not for the millennial individual is booked. The millennial individual's own dentist appointment has not been booked. It has been on the list for 4 months. This detail, which the millennial individual registers with a faint guilty flicker as they brush, will be processed in approximately 45 seconds and then replaced with tomorrow's logistic. The flicker does not stay. There's no room for it to stay. The bathroom is the last 5 minutes before sleep, and sleep is not rest in the full sense. It is the recharge between obligations, measured in hours against the morning's demands, and it is already shorter than it should be. The millennial individual did not set out to become a person who takes care of everyone but themselves. It happened through the accumulated logic of small daily decisions, each of which was individually reasonable and collectively producing a pattern that no single decision ever intended. The child's need was immediate and visible and urgent and theirs. The partner's need was real and present and adjacent. The work need was there and demanded response. The friend's need arrived in a message and needed acknowledgement. Each of these needs had a face, a relationship, a specific claim on the millennial individual's attention and care. Their own need to eat a meal sitting down, to sleep before midnight, to attend the doctor, to have an hour that belonged only to them was also real, but it was not visible to anyone else, and it made no demand, and it produced no immediate consequence when it went unmet. And so in the daily triage, it lost consistently, invisibly, without any single moment of decision. There is a clinical term for the pattern in its more entrenched form, but the version the millennial individual is carrying is not clinical. It is structural. It is the logical outcome of an adult life in which the number of roles requiring their care exceed, on most days, the available resource, and in which the resource that gets shorted when supply does not meet demand is, reliably and almost automatically, the millennial individual themselves. Researchers who study caregiver burnout, a phenomenon documented initially in formal caregiving contexts like nursing and social work, but subsequently applied to the informal caregiving of parents, partners, and family members, describe a trajectory that looks very much like the millennial individual's daily life at an accelerated pace. The trajectory begins with genuine care, freely given and sustainable. It moves through a period of extension, giving more than can be sustained because the need is real and the caring is genuine. It arrives, eventually, at depletion, a state in which the caring continues because it must, because the roles require it, but the person providing it is running on something other than abundance. They are giving from a deficit. They have been for a while. They are not entirely sure when it started. The millennial individual in the bathroom at 11:30 p.m. is somewhere in the extension phase, approaching depletion. They would not describe it that way. They would describe themselves as fine, just busy. The fine is sincere, the busy is accurate. Neither captures the direction of travel. There is a specific feature of the millennial individual's generation that intensifies this pattern, and it is worth naming because it goes beyond the universal human experience of caring for others. The millennial individual came of age in a culture that had significantly expanded its understanding of what good parenting, good partnership, and good professional engagement look like, and had done so in many cases without expanding the available hours or the structural support for the people expected to perform these expanded versions of care. The good parent, per the cultural standard the millennial individual absorbed, is emotionally present, developmentally informed, consistently attuned, engaged in the child's learning and emotional life at a depth that previous generations were neither expected nor equipped to provide. The good partner is communicative, supportive, and active participant in the emotional maintenance of the relationship rather than a passive presence. The good professional is available, responsive, accountable beyond the 40-hour week in ways that the gig economy and the smartphone have made technically possible and culturally normative. Each of these standards, taken individually, represents a genuine improvement on the versions they replace. Together, they constitute an expanded set of obligations that lands entirely on the millennial individual's available energy, which did not expand to accommodate the new standard. The list of what a good enough person does has grown. The hours have not. Here is what the millennial individual's body knows that their daily logistics do not account for. The body is keeping its own records. The tension that lives in the shoulders and does not fully release even in sleep. The digestion that has been complaining quietly about eating too fast meals and stress for longer than the millennial individual has been paying attention. The persistent low-grade fatigue that presents itself as tiredness and is actually depletion. The immune system that has been mounting small protests. The cold that keeps coming back. lack. The headache that arrives on Friday evenings in the only language available to it. These are not symptoms of illness exactly. They are symptoms of a resource allocation problem that has been running for years without being examined. The body is the last thing on the millennial individual's care list because the body makes no appointments and files no complaint through any channel that gets the same priority as the child's pediatrician, appointment or the partner's needs or the work deadline. The body has been getting by on the leftover attention, which is not very much, and is beginning to say so. There is also a specific emotional experience that the millennial individual carries and rarely articulate because it does not fit cleanly into the language of either complaint or gratitude, though they love the people they take care of. This is important to state plainly because the pattern of self-neglect can be misread as resentment or martyrdom or a relationship that has gone wrong. For most millennial individuals carrying this particular pattern, the care is genuine. The child is genuinely the most important thing. The partner is genuinely loved. The caring is not a performance or an obligation in the sense of a thing done under duress. It is an expression of real attachment and real commitment. What exists alongside the genuine care is something harder to name, not resentment, not bitterness, but a faint and mostly unexamined awareness that the caring runs in one primary direction. The millennial individual gives the full version to others and the abbreviated version to themselves. And they have done this long enough that the abbreviated version has begun to feel like their allocation rather than a temporary sacrifice. They have stopped expecting the full version for themselves. They have not consciously decided to stop. The expectation simply eroded quietly through the daily attrition of giving more than they receive, the recovery from this pattern. And it is worth saying directly that there is one, that the trajectory is not fixed, does not begin with dramatic change. It does not begin with anything that the people around the millennial individual will necessarily notice, or that will require a conversation about needs and boundaries and the reorganization of household labor. Though eventually it may lead there. It begins with the dentist appointment. Not as a symbol. As a dentist appointment, the specific unremarkable thing that has been on the list for 4 months and keeps losing the daily triage to things with more visible urgency. Booking the dentist appointment is a small act of including oneself in one's own care list, not at the top, not at the expense of the child or the partner or the work, but on the list, present, scheduled, treated as a thing that actually belongs there rather than a luxury that waits until everything else is handled. Everything else. For the millennial individual who is caring for a child and a partner and a job is never entirely handled. This is the structural reality. The dentist appointment that waits for everything else to be handled first will wait for the rest of their life. The only version of the dentist appointment that happens is the one that gets booked while everything else is still in motion. As a parallel priority rather than a residual one, the same logic applies to sleep and to the meal eaten sitting down and to the hour that belongs to no one else. These things do not become available when the list clears. The list does not clear. They become available when the millennial individual treats their own well-being as a legitimate item on the list. Not the first item, not the only item, but a real one that gets actual scheduled space, rather than the exhausted scraps of midnight and the 5 minutes between other people's needs. The millennial individual brushing their teeth at 11:30 p.m. is not failing at self-care. They are a person of genuine warmth and genuine capability who has distributed that warmth and capability day after day in the direction of the people they love and the obligations they have taken on, with a reliability that those people have come to depend on and a sustainability that the millennial individual has not been tracking honestly. There is a specific irony embedded in this pattern that is worth sitting with before the conversation ends. The millennial individual who does not take care of themselves is, over time, reducing the quality and consistency of the care they are able to provide to everyone else. The depleted caregiver is not a better caregiver than the sustained one. The parent who has not slept is less patient, less emotionally present, less capable of the attuned responsiveness that good parenting requires. The partner who has no time for themselves is less able to be genuinely present in the relationship. The professional running on empty produces work that costs more effort and delivers less quality than the same professional with something left in reserve. The millennial individual's self-neglect is not, in the long run, a sacrifice for others. It is an erosion of the very resource that makes the caring possible. This is not a guilt trip. It is a structural argument. Sustainable care requires a sustainable caregiver. The airplane metaphor, put on your own oxygen mask first, is not advice about selfishness. It is advice about physics. The unconscious person cannot help the person beside them regardless of intention. The millennial individual who books the dentist appointment, who eats the meal sitting down, who sleeps the hour before midnight rather than after it, that person is not choosing themselves over the people they love. They are investing in the capacity to keep choosing those people at the quality those people deserve. For longer than the current trajectory allows. There is also something worth saying about the people on the receiving end of the millennial individual's care. Children who grow up with a parent who consistently models self-neglect absorb a lesson about what adults do with their own needs. Partners who have a consistently self-neglecting partner partner may not notice the pattern, or may notice it and not know how to interrupt it. The care ecosystem built around the millennial individual's own depletion is not stable for the people inside it either. It is built on a resource that is quietly running down, and the people who depend on it are not served by its eventual failure. The child is lucky to have them. The partner is lucky. The colleagues, the friends, the family members who receive the full version, they are all lucky. And most of them know it, and none of them know quite what it costs. The person who does not know what it costs is partly the millennial individual themselves. They have not been keeping that particular accounting. They have been keeping everyone else's. The dentist appointment is 4 months overdue. It would take 4 minutes to book. Thanks for watching. If this felt familiar, leave a comment.
And this week, just one thing on the list for you.